53-55 is not going to do the damage to a team that it would have done 6 weeks ago. I'm right.
Wait, Brew, how can you be doing this? Brew,
you do that all the time.
Brew, it's lost its impact.
Welcome back to a wonderful episode of First Things First, where we're talking about Brock Purdy agreeing to a 5-year, $265 million extension, which puts him at $53 million a year, as accurately predicted by Chris Broussard, who will again...
It is not losing its impact.
No, it is not.
$53 million. John Lynch, you're welcome. I mean, come on. And you know what else I was right about?
What?
I said, Nick, you know this. This is whether you think he's worth $60 million, I know you don't, but this is a team-friendly deal in a lot of ways. It's friendly for him, too. It's a great deal for both.
There are wins in this deal for both sides.
Right. And so like when I said, I think he's the type of guy, he will leave some money, he wants them to have room to go get other guys. That's what he did. Like, he didn't go he's the 7th highest quarterback in the league. Usually, whether you deserve it or not, you're right. If you don't set the new mark, you're right there at the top.
That's true.
And he didn't do that. So I think that's
Can I throw another thing in here? Because I'll swim in your pond a little bit. As also predicted by you accurately, with the cap going up. And Bill Barnwell today, Purdy is only taking 19% of the cap, where Joe Burrow, when he signed the deal, was 25%, Josh Allen was 24%, Herbert was 24%, Mahomes was around 23%. Purdy's only 19%. Accurately predicted again by Brew. That's from Bill Barnwell. Bill Barnwell didn't say accurately predicted by Brew, but he might as well.
And Josh Allen has since redone his deal. And this was the point Colin made, and I agree with him. So Josh Allen redid his deal to where he now makes $55 million a year. If I were running the Niners, there is no way in the world I would have Brock Purdy closer to Josh Allen's updated, recent salary than, to use the example Colin gave, Baker's. I think that and now Brock wouldn't have taken, Baker makes $33 million a year, Brock wouldn't have taken 35, which is why I wouldn't have done it. And Brew does deserve, not only the victory lap, but also credit for seeing Brock Purdy clearly the way Brew sees Brock Purdy is closer to how John Lynch sees him and Kyle Shanahan than how I see him. Like, we'll see if that ends up being correct. And I know Brew hates this graphic, but this year will either be the year this graphic dies, or that I show it all the time as evidence as to why I would wait, which is Brock Purdy with and without all of his Avengers. So here is why this is relevant. I'm not even trying to start an argument.
Right.
Because every game played this year is going to count for the right-hand column, not the left-hand column. And so I personally, if I were running the Niners, because you can't have all 5 of those guys, they're gone.
No, but you'll get other guys.
No, I understand, but I don't think I do not think the Niners are as talented as on offense this coming year than they have been in years past. I would have waited another year to see it, and what I certainly wouldn't have done is, now we have to see the exact details, but if the $181 million guaranteed is correct reporting, and that's true guarantees, that is a real 3 or 4 year commitment at a minimum.
That's the second highest guarantee.
Right.
And Deshaun Watson,
correct.
Is,
And so that's a real commitment, and the no trade clause would terrify me as well. So that's where I think Brock got his wins, is in the guarantees and the no trade clause. And so after seeing him struggle for the first time in his career on a year they didn't have the bounty of weapons around him, I would have been hesitant to pay him. I would have rather waited another year. It's not that I would have been like, I'll only pay you 48. It's that I would have said, I want to see it for another season.
That's usually been my take. That was my take on Tua. That was my take on Trevor. And I think the verdict is still out on it, certainly on Trevor and even on Tua. Brock, led them to the Super Bowl. I know led might be strong, but he got them to the Super Bowl. Has won 4 playoff games. And, I've said it, and it's just true. How many quarterbacks have proven to be great or lead teams long distances without their star players? Burrow, I'm not saying he couldn't do it. He hasn't proven it, right? Mahomes had proved it when he won his last MVP. But the last 2 years, they haven't, he hasn't been great individually, statistically. And even then, he always had Kelsey. Lamar has proven it, and Josh Allen has proven it. But outside of them, and I'm not saying Purdy's in their class, no, Matthew Stafford, and I know you love him, he has not had much success recently without his weapons. So, and you know this, and this is where it's when you mentioned the wins for Purdy, this contract is going to age wonderfully for them. Just because the cap's going to keep going up. He's already 7th. In a couple years, he'd probably be out of the top 10 as far as
It only ages wonderfully, though, if last year was the outlier year. That's the only way it ages wonderfully. So that's the point I'm making is he came in midway through a year and was good and then got hurt in the playoffs. Then he had one spectacular year and one mediocre year.
Yeah.
Which of those 2 years is the outlier is what will determine this contract being good or bad. Because if last year is just, even if they win more, because the defense isn't as banged up or whatever it is, but if last year is his level of production throughout the year, then this is not a good deal. If they get anything close to the year before last consistently, then this will age beautifully. You would think he's
going to be somewhere in between, I would think. And I think they're getting, Ayuk was out, he'll be back. They were the 4th highest offense in total offense, even without McCaffrey last year, and Ayuk. So I think it's a good deal.
Also, easiest schedule in the league, 49ers and Patriots.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ooh, watch out. Rodgers to the Steelers after a great episode of Weird and Wonderful next. That's true.
It doesn't lose its impact.
Never will, said that.
Nick just said
Yeah. Maybe